What's up, everybody? Patrick here. I'm going to answer a ton of questions on this video. I'm going to run through PropStream really quick. And what this video is going to cover is how to pull a list for free through PropStream. This software right here you're looking at on my screen. And if you don't know what PropStream is the #1 real estate success investment software that exists on planet Earth, in my opinion. I'm biased. I use it every single day. If you've never used it, feel free to check out a free trial. There's a link in the description on this video, in my profile, wherever you're watching this video from. Check it out. It's literally zero obligation. There's a free trial period. You can log in. You can do exactly everything that I'm showing you in this video. And if you haven't closed a deal yet, you'll be well on your way to pulling the right kind of data, the right list, narrowing down in your market exactly what kind of properties you want to target to lock up under contract and wholesale and make that first deal. And you can get that rush of what it's like to wholesale a property, because this business is so over convoluted with gurus and people telling you what to do, where to go, where to spend your money, what course to buy, this and that. And I'm going to show you right now what we do on a weekly basis, if not more, in our business, pulling data, comparing, stacking lists, doing all this crazy stuff on PropStream to close deals. So without further ado, let's just dive in. So here is your login screen. Once you log in, you get set up on a free trial on PropStream. These are properties I've searched in the past right here. I know my face is probably covering one of them, but I'm just going to go ahead and click one. There is no significance to this property. It's on Utah Street here in St. Louis. It's a property I looked up the other day. Was just doing some research for somebody. No significance at all. Feel free to look it up yourself. You're not hurting my feelings. And so here's what you see when you go to any property. And what is really amazing about PropStream is the kind of data that it pulls from a data standpoint, obviously, and it really puts everything in a very easily digestible format. I know other softwares, even including the MLS, can get kind of confusing. I think the MLS is due for a giant upgrade. I know they're constantly changing stuff on it, but I am not a real estate agent. I do not have my license. I do not have MLS access. And if you're watching this and you're in the boat that I'm in, like a lot of investors are, especially a lot of wholesalers, young people starting out, people just getting their feet in the door on the real estate investing side, and they don't have access to all the data that you need as a real estate investor. This is literally the MLS for investors. It's an off-market MLS, in my opinion. So this is what you see when you type in a property. It tells you the estimated value. This is definitely kind of a Zillow situation where it does have an algorithm. It pulls different sorts of square footage and comps and all kinds of other stuff, and I'll dive into that here in a second. But it is pretty accurate, and it's a good place to start. So estimated value, it tells you the status off market. It tells you if it's distressed. No, I don't know how they get that data, but it's incredible. It tells you if it has any liens. It tells you the owner type is an individual. Is it owner occupied or is it absentee owned? And the beds, baths, square foot, when it was built, estimated equity, average comps, what it could the estimated rent is. Tell me if you're watching this, if this isn't already incredible information to know all in one spot. So I'm gonna click details here, and I'm only gonna go through this. I'm gonna go through this part really quick so we can dive into the list here in a second. And if you stay till the end, I'm gonna pop up a phone number you can text. You can text me. I'll send you my free cold calling scripts. By all means, this is an entire business based around value. I do want to try to help people close deals, but the reality of it is, you got to take action. So I highly suggest by the end of this video, text the phone number that's going to be on the screen, and I will send you free cold calling scripts as well as a free trial link to this software. So here's this property right here. It tells you single family residence, off market, like I went through before. But where this really gets important is it tells you the owner status, owner occupied, and if it was vacant, the occupancy right here would say vacant. And I'm going to pull a vacant, high equity, absentee owned, free and clear list. And if I ran through that pretty quick, you're going to hear that jargon and see it all laid out here in a list here in a second. So length of ownership is very important to us as investors. The longer somebody owns a property, the more likely, the higher chance that they're going to entertain an offer on it. It's just natural philosophy of humanity. So length of ownership on this one's 14.8 years. The original purchase method was financed. And what county is it in? So here's the ownership name, their mailing address, all kinds of other stuff about the property. I'm not going to get into this. Like I said, this is not the point of this video, but just look at all the stuff that you pulled. The last time it was sold, this was an inherited property right here. Document type was recorded in 2001. Somebody passed away last time it was sold. But where I really focus right here is these top few numbers, right? The estimated value for this current year is 194. Last year, 183,942. And it has a graph here on shows, what's the overall market changes in this area from a 5-year perspective. And comparables right here is 57 comparable properties. Average sale price is 194.20. Days on market for those 57 properties on average was 54 days. I use this as a ballpark, but I'll show you in another video how to run your actual comps based on the type of property. Is it single family? Is it a condo? Is it a two family? This is strictly just pulling the total sales price, square footage, and other things like that. It doesn't actually break it down as much as you would really need to dive into comps. That's why I'm not going to do it on this video. I'll do it on another video. So where I really like to look is mortgage debt summary. Open mortgages total is 1. Estimated mortgage balance $58,067. It's an estimate. From my experience, I've only done 2 properties where this number was not within $1 of what the actual mortgage is, and there was a number of other reasons why it wouldn't have been. But this is a very accurate number. We use it every single day in our business to find out if we have a property that has equity, if there's enough equity in it to be able to structure a wholesale deal, if they're motivated enough to be able to take enough of a discount to sell to an investor. That's the number one thing that we do on every lead, is make sure that this mortgage balance is low enough based on this number and the value of the property. And on this one, it is. So it tells you the last time the property was sold, and then it tells you public records, 2002 was sold for 87, then 137.3. So this is a great place to start if you're just evaluating property. You're already looking at this and you know so much about it before you've ever even talked to the owner. Now what I want to do is take this address, and I'm going to take this address, and what it does is, you see here there's a proximity, like a geo map, where it pulls all of these little pins on top of these houses, and these are all of the data that it's pulling for this property, because it's within a small radius around the property, which is how you want to analyze property. And so you see these tabs up here on the top. This is where the gold happens. We're going to build a list right now. And I'm going to pull a vacant list. And so, but this is so powerful. You could pull MLS listed properties, pre-foreclosures, auctions, bank owned, cash buyer lists, which is so powerful to be able to pull these and be able to skip trace or get the mailing addresses and send out a marketing campaign of letters to an area that you just got a property under contract. This is gold. This is a one-stop shop for doing a deal. I promise you that. And then if a property has liens, which you could stack on top of other stuff, and then vacant, and then high equity, there's always a ton of, because certain softwares change their equity position on what they determine high equity. Some it's 30%, some it's 50. It varies. So you want to input that stuff manually. And what I'm going to do is show you how to do that right now. So I'm going to click vacant, which is going to pinpoint my list to just starting with a vacant class of properties in this area. So it's spread out the area quite a bit because there's only so many in this area. But this is all, I would buy property in every single little neighborhood right here. If you're familiar with St. Louis and you're watching this, you know why I say that. So if you're looking at this, you see that a lot of these have pictures, which means they probably were listed recently. This one just sold. It's got negative equity. So what I want to do looking at this list is just filter these out. And I don't want to go through these one by one. I want to go through here and do this smart. I want to do this in a couple of minutes. And I'm going to break it down. It's going to take a little longer than it will after you've done this a couple times. So when you have the vacant, I click search, and then I'm going to go to my filters. Once this loads, I'm going to go to filters. And then you see right here, my quick list choice, which is that button I clicked, is vacant. And that's all that's on here. And this is not the actual address. This is just a proximity to this address. Really what I care about is this zip code. So this is where I start building my list. And it has all these tabs right here. We're going to go down. We're going to really narrow this list down, because right now there's 526 on this list, which are not bad lists to go after. But there's absolutely no point on planet Earth why I'm going to go after this property right here that has negative equity. And it just sold. I don't do creative finance deals. I don't do subject to mortgages and stuff like that, and wraparound mortgages. I don't do any of that stuff. And if you are watching this and you just want to do a deal and do wholesale deals and do 5 deals a month, this is exactly the process you need to go through every single month or week or however much free time you have. So owner occupying, I'm gonna leave it as any, because sometimes it does make the list very small. So owner in the occupancy status, and you're going to see as I click these buttons and I start to narrow down my criteria, this list over here is going to start shrinking. So vacant, owner occupancy status, occupied, any, this list is already vacant, so I'm just going to leave that alone. Property characteristics, this is where if you knew you were specifically searching for a 2-bed, 2-bed, 2-bath, or a 4-bed, 2-bath, or some criteria like that, this is where you can change all of that. You can get very, very specific with this. If you don't want to have any properties, say you're looking at a property next to a very nice development, and you do not want to include any of those properties that are in that nice development because they're all HOA properties, you could just exclude them right here. There are so many things you can do with this. So the only thing I'm going to do on here for sake of time and sake of complication is the property type. And I'm going to do single families, because I love single families. Multifamilies, 2 to 4 units. I'm going to leave condos and townhouses out of this, just because it's not something I really target. And multifamily 5+, so that's apartment buildings, 5+ units. And I'm going to leave all this other stuff blank because I don't need any of this stuff. I'm not doing any commercial. But you see the power of PropStream. If you were looking, you could find literally anything you want on here for any type of buyer, any type of real estate transaction. So I'm gonna leave it just single family and multifamilies and just keep it simple. So I'm gonna click out of that. Now I'm gonna close this tab and I'm gonna go down to MLS status. This is very important. On market, it says any right now, and like I said, some of these properties on the right here, when you saw them, they were either just listed or just sold, or they have no equity. So I'm gonna go on market, no, and that's gonna drastically change this list. It's gonna immediately just take out properties I do not want to deal with. But what you see here is, but if you wanted, on the flip side of that, if you wanted to attack old listings and you just do on market, and today is whatever day, and you want to go back, it's been on the market for 120 days, and you're trying to go after subject to properties that are tired, people that are trying to sell. There might be, somebody who was doing a for sale by owner who ended up listing and they're just absurd on their price, and you're trying to structure creative finance deals. You could definitely just go after tired and old listings at this exact process, because they're going to be vacant because they're listed most likely, and those are the ones that are going to be willing to do a subject to or a creative finance deal. You got to reverse engineer the process here. So days on market, you could put 120 days or 500 days, and you would get narrowed down to maybe the only property you want to talk to in that area, that's been listed for 500 days. There's a reason it hasn't sold. It's a good lead to talk to and figure out what's going on. You might be able to structure a deal. But for sake of simplicity on this, we're just going after a wholesale deal with a ton of equity. So no, on market, no, absolutely not. I'm leaving that off. And then so we're going to go down to the next tab here. That's really the only thing I'm going to do on that one. And then pre-foreclosure bank owned, if you were going after either type of those leads, this is exactly where you would input any of that information, which we're not doing on this video. Ownership info, years of ownership. So this is important. This is one thing I put on almost every single lead or every single list that I build. And on this particular one, I'm going to just do 9 years, and I'm going to do a max of 50 years, whatever it is. You could put 20 years, whatever. Data really isn't recorded past that on most softwares I've ever used. I think the oldest property I've ever seen was owned, actually it said from like 1972, was actually recorded in software. So a lot of that stuff wasn't updated back in the day, especially because it's all got to be digitized and updated these days because the internet did not exist then. So I'm just going to do own 9 years is the minimum. So that means if they bought that property 9 years ago, then they're going to show up. If they bought it 8 years ago, they're not going to show up on this list. And so we're just going to keep going. I'm going to leave everything else on here, pre-probate. So you see how much data is on here. You could really, really, really build strong lists. But for sake of simplicity, I'm going to leave it like that. If you were doing lien, bankruptcy, and divorce leads, you could input all of the recording dates, all types of different information right here, but I'm not going to do it on this video. And then valuation, mortgage, equity info. This is where if you were going to go after a property that, the equity, the estimated value range was between, say you're pre-approved for $100,000 to $200,000, you could put that in here. Or you could just do estimated equity 10% to or 80% to 90 to 100%. That's where you would build this list if you're not going to just input free and clear properties, which I'm going to do right here on mortgage info. So where you see mortgage info right here, open all mortgages, first loan to current loan to value. Just ignore all that for this sake of building a free and clear high equity absentee owned list. And it says free and clear right here, and I'm going to put include. So that's going to that was 3 pages you saw here before. It's going to drastically shrink it. So now we're down to 2 pages. And so this is where if you were looking for a cash buyer, you could put including cash buyers that have bought, this is an investment property. Somebody who owns free and clear. They bought it with cash. It's vacant. And they've owned it for 9 years. I bet if I click that, this list probably goes to almost 0. Because I didn't put it in the right criteria. If I was going to do a cash buyer list, I'd click on that cash buyer tab. I would do own for a year or less because you want somebody who's actively buying. And then I would just go down to this and click include cash buyer, and then I would make the owner occupancy as no. I would want it vacant. And I would not want it to be their primary residence or their mailing address. And I would just pull that list of cash buyers. But on this one, I'm leaving it as any. Or I could exclude it, but I'm not going to, because it doesn't mean that somebody bought a property 40 years ago for cash for 20 grand. It's worth now 200. I don't want to miss that lead, so I'm leaving that. So this is all set up. You see how it builds your list right here. My search, this was the original property geolocation we searched with. Quick list choice was vacant. Property type, single family, multifamily, 2 to 4, 5 plus. On market, no, absolutely not. Years of ownership, 9 to 50. Include unknown sales date, no. Where is that? Because I would change that. But free and clear include. So unknown sales date means it just wasn't recorded. But sometimes you get a lot of those because they just sold. So I am going to go ahead and leave that alone because it just hasn't recorded yet. So say somebody owned a property for 40 years and it was recorded that they just sold it, but it hasn't gone through the system yet. I'm just going to leave it alone for right now. I'm not trying to complicate people. So here we go. So we're going to close this. And what this did was we went down from 526 properties down to 63 properties. Now, if you're wondering what to do with these properties or with this list, I highly suggest getting our cold calling scripts, and you can text this number. It's going to come across the screen. It's 314-626-8184. And what's that? You can text that number, and it's going to send you our free cold calling scripts, and it's going to send you a free trial link to PropStream after 24 hours. It'll go to your email. Just put your email in there, and you will get that link. If you miss it in this video, it won't forget to follow up with you. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to post another video. We're going to skip trace these properties.